Always good to be back on the Succession Success podcast, the Q5 Experience podcast, right here on the Empowering Futures Podcast Network. Matt Derry with you as I run business development and marketing for both the Q5 Experience and Financial Architects, Inc. On this show, we focus on business exit planning, talking to business owners, folks that are working inside the businesses, and a whole host of different varieties and certainly topics and tasks. And our guest today is Luke Maiuri, who is the project manager and estimator at Shores Tile Company in Sterling Heights and on the east side. Luke is with us today. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you?
Doing well. I'm doing well. For those of you that don't know, you can find our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And most recently, we've made this a full-on video podcast as well on YouTube. So for those of you watching, you see Luke's repping Shores Tile and with the shirt. I love the goatee, by the way. You and I both.
Thank you.
You and I have too much silver, though. We're getting old, right?
It's experience is what I like to call it there.
I love it. For more information on what we do and how we help business owners with exit planning and certainly taking the I don't know out of what's next, please check us out at q5experience.com. Luke, as we mentioned, is at Shores Tile. Tell me a little bit about what you do for them and how long the business has been in business.
The business started in my grandfather's basement in 1966. It's progressed through the older brothers to the youngest brother now, Joe. And I am project manager, estimator for our company. Do some bidding, do some project managing, do some janitorial and everything in between. So we do it all with the power that we have in our building there.
What is Shores Tile all about? How did, like you mentioned the start and almost 3 or 4 generations of family.
Third generation, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's awesome. But what's it all about? How did it get started, and what is your niche?
So our niche is commercial tile contracting. My grandfather, fought through the 80s and all the fun stuff that came with that. We started doing some McDonald's work and realized that residential work was not as fun as the commercial side. So we started going towards the commercial side, and it's been commercial ever since. We still do residential work, but mostly focus on the commercial side. We do schools, police departments, fire departments, and any type of commercial business you can kind of think of.
When you talk about tile, Luke, did you have to learn? I mean, were you land tile? Were you when you started kind of having to do a lot of the grunt work just to learn the business side to really understand what's it all about?
So I guess unofficially, if there's any union reps watching, at 12 years old, my father in the summertime asked, "Hey, do you want to go for a ride?" At 12 years old, and your dad says, "Hey, you want to go for a ride?" I jumped in the truck. I was ready to roll. Didn't know that we were going to a job site, and he said, "Why don't you go pick up that cardboard box over there?" Okay. Why don't you go do this? Move this bucket over here. So that was, at a young age, doing that. So as I got older, I went to college for a couple of years, came back, and I started, at the lowest rung, driving the truck, kind of picking up material, delivering it. The grunt work, yeah, moving it upstairs, the stuff that no one wants to do. But my father did it. I saw my uncles doing it. So just kind of we didn't ask anybody to do something that we weren't willing to do ourselves. So started doing some managing with the job sites at 2021, and I found that difficult because 40-year-old guys don't like taking orders from 20-year-old guys, and as a 40-year-old guy, I can vouch for that. So it was difficult. So I took a little hiatus for about 20 years, and now I'm back, and it's been a very good experience being back with the family business.
When you look at how difficult the last few years have been in terms of obviously COVID, pandemic, and I promise it's the last time I use those words, but how have you had to change? How has Shores Tile had to have kind of grown over the last few years?
It's really, the same parameters that were put in place for us, the masks, the all this type of things, we still had to work through it. So, we had to change the way that we did things. Excuse me. When we get on a job site, we have to provide uh, protocols on how we handle safety. Well, that was a whole nother protocol safety panel manual that we had to provide. So that was a hurdle that we had to take, and that was lucky for us. It wasn't just Michigan, or it just wasn't whatever city we were doing work in. It was nationwide. So our workers did a really good job of kind of accepting that, and just rolling with the punches, thankfully.
Yeah, no question about it. Luke Maiuri is with us, project manager and estimator at Shores Tile, a company been around, like he said, for a long, long time. Why should people, I know I'm almost asking you the tough questions early, but why should people go to you guys? What separates Shores from, there's so many, especially
Yeah.
here on the east side. You and I are kind of neighbors, but there's so many companies that do what you do. What separates you from the pack?
So it was funny that it's a good question. I like this question because I think I have a good answer. So we interviewed a gentleman that came in and wanted to set some tile for us, and my uncle, who usually handles that, was running behind. So he goes, "Hey, can you just 15 minutes kind of sit with them?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." So I'm talking with them, and it's kind of said, "Hey, something that separates us from everyone else is our culture. That we have a small crew. We have a very small crew comparative to other larger companies out there, and but we can do a lot of damage with that, and we rely on each other to help each other out, and really piggyback one another. And there's not a that's not my job conversation. We just all tackle everything going forward. So, and that was just me. Like I said, I've been with the company, back with the company 2 years, and that's what I've noticed. So, my uncle comes in, 15 minutes later, he talks to him, and he says, "Hey," the first thing out of his mouth was, "Hey, the culture here is going to be different." So, we rely on ourselves to kind of tackle as a group, move forward as a group. We answer phone calls even when we know that phone call is not bearing great news, and we give truthful answers. And moving forward with schedules and things like that, you need to have truthful answers. I could lie and say, "Oh yeah, the tile is going to be delivered tomorrow," and if it's not delivered tomorrow, our integrity, it speaks louder than anything that we do. So we do our best to keep our integrity intact.
I was going to ask you about that because obviously there's been sort of a supply chain issues for the last couple of years. How have you dealt with that? Because I'm sure you've got some customers where you say, "Listen, we think this job can start on X," and then it turns out to be Y or Z.
Ooh, or whatever letter comes after that sometimes. But
how's
you
that?
know,
Yeah, how's that work?
in with the tile business, thankfully, a lot of our stuff is built, or excuse me, manufactured in the States. So where we were the bad guy years ago telling people 4 weeks, now we're looking like a hero coming in saying, "Oh man, I lost you, sorry." Um, we look like a hero coming in saying 4 weeks. Um, it's we still have to deal with the trucking issues and that sort of thing, but we're seeing like drywall, doors, cabinets 20 plus weeks out. So all we can do is just say, "Hey, you spec this material, we ordered it on this day," and um, if it's 16 weeks, it's 16 weeks. If it's 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks. And again, just being truthful. I mean, I'm not a smart person. I can't juggle all these lies and everything like that. So um, I can't keep one story straight, let alone five of them. So I just
Come
I
on,
just give it as it is and say, and that's what it is, and you move forward after that.
come on, Luke. You're selling yourself a little short here.
That's
The
it. You got to, yeah.
it seems like, it's interesting too, because with the family dynamic, and this is something we deal with our clients at Q5 is, vesting key employees, making sure everybody's on the same page. If we talk to a business owner that feels like they're probably going to sell it and the kids are going to take it over, there are a lot of conversations that have to take place. What types of conversations are you and your family and You mentioned uncles, dads, grandfathers having to have about the
You know,
business. Sometimes those are probably difficult conversations, right?
yeah. We for my instance, personally, we haven't had too much specific discussions on that yet. One thing, my uncle, he is 10 years older, 9 years older than I am. He's been more of a big brother to me as I grew up. So our communication has always been very, very clear. And that's one thing that we've maintained in a business environment is just make sure that we're constantly communicating. And again, you got to have those tough conversations, have them early, attack them head on. Don't tiptoe around it. Our family, we don't sugarcoat a lot of things. So, and that's how I prefer it. So we just have direct conversations and just to kind of have that communication open and not be afraid to ask questions, not be afraid to answer questions. Some answers are yes, some are no, some are I don't know, and that's fine. But just put a pin in it and come back to that. Make sure that you answer that for the people asking it. So.
Take a time out. We come back. I want to ask Luke about what he specifically does as a project manager and estimator and also networking. Luke and I met at a networking event, and it's something that he has had to do, and I've had to do as well, that might not be in some people's wheelhouse, but it's so important here in 2023. We'll do that next, right here on the Q5 Experience podcast. This is Succession Success.
As a business owner, have you ever thought about what it would look like to leave on your terms? In a business, there are too many moving parts to fully understand and implement a practical succession plan while at the same time living inside your own business. Your energy today is focused on running a great company. In the end, don't you want the highest value? Get to the next phase in life on your terms and leave an impactful legacy? We help with that. The Q5 Experience. We help take the I don't know out of what's next.
Welcome back. Our guest is Luke Maiuri. He is the project manager and estimator at Shores Tile Company here on the east side. Sterling Heights, right? Is where the office is?
I live in Sterling Heights. Roseville is where we're actually headquartered.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
But you're close enough, right?
Yeah, anywhere east of Woodward is all the same area to some people. So.
You mentioned before working with some schools. I know, I believe you told me some of the St. Clair Shores schools you guys deal with as well, and some others. And how do you go about finding some of these clients?
The clients that find us, we're on an invite to bid list with the larger companies. So many companies out there, general contracting now. So that's you got to make sure that you're meeting all of these people and getting on their invite to bid list, because so many people leave larger companies, start their own smaller ones, but they're still effective and they still have the relationships that have those bigger jobs sometimes. And that's always the fun part, doing that. We did a school out in Brighton. We've done some high schools here in Sterling Heights. And we have an elementary school that we just finished up out in South Lyon. So that's always been kind of our bread and butter. The first job I worked on ever was Clarkston High School when they expanded that, and that place was wall to wall tile, and that was my first really large job I ever worked on.
When you get a phone call or there's somebody that is not real happy with your work, or maybe there's some issues, how does it work in terms of process to make sure that all of that gets rectified? Because you said it is kind of a small crew.
Yeah. So first and foremost, you just have to listen to find out what the problem is. Sometimes the problem isn't directly on Shores Tile. Sometimes but I don't do any good arguing or stirring it up any more than I have to. I want to work with these people on the next project. So listen to them and just hear them out. Most people just want to be heard, and that's a big thing. So we do that. If it's an issue that involves us, we'll go directly to the source. I don't send someone else out there to go or something. I usually try to tackle it head on. Ask my employee, hey, this is what was said. what happened, get his side of it. Then I go back to the general contractor usually and try to figure it out. The superintendents on the job sites they always have my phone number or my uncle's or my
Oh,
father's.
nice.
So
Nice.
they call us directly. We answer. We're on the job site. We're talking to them, and just doing what we have to do. Again, sometimes the issue isn't necessarily ours, but whatever we can do to kind of keep that job rolling forward. You don't want to be a reason why it stopped, and it's always good to see if you're helping it move forward.
Tell me about your position and what it means to be an estimator. And I know there's probably a lot of honesty that has to go into your job, doesn't it?
Yeah, estimating it's a lot more. We 21st century. We're finally here. No more big rolls of paper and with the ruler with that three-sided ruler. It's all digital now, so you have to be meticulous. You have to look at pages that you didn't think that you had to look at. You're finding things small print, and making sure that you got it accounted for. So, getting used to the software was fun. For me, that's kind of in my wheelhouse. I grew up, with the computer in the house, so a computer's second nature to me. My uncle and father, they're more of a pen and paper kind of guy, and that's fine. But I've brought some spreadsheets in and Microsoft Excel even to tabulate things. So rather than with a calculator. So um, once you get the job, now you become like the project manager. So, and again, this going back to what you said, that honesty is like, hey, I missed this corner, I missed this wall, and then you just got to figure it out. So it's a fun situation to be in sometimes.
But what I want to know, Luke, is if you go to a job site, like you mentioned, let's say a school in Brighton or whatever, and they're going to ask, right, pretty early, what's this going to cost us? Is that how difficult are those conversations, and what's that like?
Well, again, for me, it's always the most direct path to that answer. It doesn't do anybody any good to say, "Hey, this is going to cost 1,000," and then send them a bill for 5,000. It doesn't do me any good to say it's going to cost 5,000 and it only costs 1,000, because you just don't want to. You don't want to leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth, and you're not trying to. What I try to tell people is, hey, I'm just trying to accommodate what the situation calls for. I'm not retiring on this job. We're steadily building something here. We're not trying to hit a jackpot and get out of here. So, but those conversations can be difficult, and you have to be willing to work. It's a negotiation at that point.
Luke Maiuri with us from Shores Tile Company. All right, so you and I met at a CAM event, Construction Association of Michigan, that was actually hosted by Chris Messos on the Q5 team. Had a little coffee event at Messos' office, the Grotto. And look, this is how we developed our relationship. How much have things changed? And if you had to talk to your family about, look, we got to get out there and do these types of things. And what does CAM mean to you, and that you're a member and you're obviously active?
What I like about it is they do a really good job of bringing people together. They try to do them, as often as they can. Something you and I discussed at a quick time was, best practices are best practices across the board. I don't care if you're an electrician, you're a plumber, you're a dentist. There's things to be learned from everybody, and you meet good managers, you meet good facilitators, and as someone that is a manager, that's I try to listen to as many people, especially people that are in a successful position, and try to learn from them. My family, I'm like, we're paying for this. Why not check it out? See
Yeah.
what it's all about. If it's a waste of time, then it's a couple hours wasted. But it hasn't been. I've met some really cool people in the handful of events that I've been to, and I plan on continuing to do it.
It's interesting what the CAM stands for. For those that don't know, the Construction Association of Michigan. Kevin Kohler and his crew do a fantastic job. You're a member. We're members at Q5. So it's it's amazing how getting in front of people again, and obviously that got taken away for a few years, but just networking really it really helps the business, doesn't it?
Yeah, you never know who's going to be working where, especially in this climate where people are moving to a better opportunity, and people willing to hire people from outside of their industry. Again, good managers and good people are hard to come by, and once you get your hands on someone like that, you try to keep them in, you bring them into the fold. I used to work in restaurants. I started working in tile distribution, and I brought someone that worked with me over there because she was just a hard worker, a smart worker, and she wanted to learn. And you don't let go of people like that. And these networking events, you might work at Q5 today. Maybe you're working for a large general contractor tomorrow, and we have this relationship, and you call me in for a job bid. So you just never know. You never know.
Plus, we got to talk some Lions football at that event. That
Yeah.
was our bond as well.
and Twitter too, but we'll leave that out of the conversation.
Well, we got to stay off there.
Yeah.
So, final thing, your company, it's interesting. There's a lot of tile. I've met a ton of tile company, whether it's owners, managers like yourself at these CAM events. Is the environment different now? Is there more collaboration that's going on, maybe as opposed to competition?
Yeah, I do believe that. I think as some of the older generation is kind of moving on to greener pastures, the younger guys are coming in and realize that it's not a me versus you mentality. It's a us versus everyone else, and we can kind of you know discuss practices. Hey, have you tried this product? Have you seen this tool? Have you done and things like that? And it's information is the most powerful thing that you can have, and the more opportunity you get to get that is necessary. So we try to collaborate as much as we can. When we're discussing uh, different materials or different tools, you got to keep learning. You got to keep moving forward. So that's what we try to do.
Luke, how would folks get a hold of you and your company if they need to speak with you?
Our website is Shores Tile, ShoresTile.com. There's email and phone number on the website, and they can certainly stop by. We're over on Little Mac Avenue between 12 and 13. So any way you want to get a contact with us.
Appreciate your time, my friend. Thanks so much for telling us a little bit about what you do, and great insight as always.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate the time.
Luke Maiuri is with us from Shores Tile Company. Is like he said, project manager and estimator. Go to shorestile.com. This has been another episode of Q5 Experience Podcast, Succession Success. We learned about a lot of businesses in our area. We appreciate Luke's time, and we will talk to you soon.